Good morning, good afternoon, all. We'll get started in just a moment. Give folks a chance to trickle in. Uh, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. It's always uh, fun to see where folks are dialing in and from, and terrific to see some familiar faces. Hey, Sean. Hey, Tommy. Oh, no pressure, Kyle. You've got colleagues here with you. Excellent. Oh, terrific. Nice to see TASB, the Risk Management Fund, doing great work down in Texas. Looks like a good Texas representation. Hey, Robert. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started as people are trickling in. I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled Staying Ahead of K-12 Email Threats, How Aldine ISD Protects 39,500 mailboxes. And this webinar is sponsored by Abnormal AI. Let me go to the next slide here. Just a little bit about K12 SIX, my organization. I'm the director here. K12 SIX is the ISAC for the U.S. K12 education sector. We actually have recently been admitted to membership in the National Council of ISACs, which will further shore um, our work for and with the K-12 sector. We are focused exclusively on the needs of the K-12 education sector. We have a unique context. We use some unique tools, and certainly we have uh, different sorts of constraints than other types of organizations. And that is the reason that we decided that in 2020 it would be important to launch an organization specifically to support the cybersecurity needs of the K-12 sector. We are an independent nonprofit. We're also vendor agnostic. We don't sell or endorse any cybersecurity solutions. Primarily, what members get from us is threat intelligence, best practice guidance, and perhaps most importantly of all, a community of K-12 practitioners dedicated to keeping their school communities safe from emerging cybersecurity risks. If you're not a member, we'd love to have you as a member, and I'd encourage you to follow that link on the screen there to learn more. A little bit of housekeeping today. The webinar is being recorded, and we will send out a link to that recording after the webinar. We will also be sending out the slides and some other collateral to you, to everyone who registered for the event. So if you missed something, know that you will be getting that information as a follow-up email. You will note that you're all muted, but of course you can see that the chat function is working. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves, but if you do have a question for any of the presenters, do please use that Q&A panel that makes sure we won't miss your question. And then at the end of the webinar, I'm going to come back, provide a QR code to not to fish you, but to get your feedback on today's survey and just provide you with a little bit of additional information. So, without any further ado, I'd like to invite Mick and Kyle to come on screen. I'm really excited for this conversation today. schools face a variety of threats, right? Phishing, ransomware, data breaches, denial of service attacks, sort of you name it, I could go on and on. And those threats continue to evolve in new and interesting ways. Of course, by saying interesting, I'm thinking of that curse, may you live in interesting times. Not so terrific for us, but one of the consistent things we've seen in K-12 has been the challenge of dealing with email-based phishing. And while this has been a problem for education for a long time, for schools for a long time, in the last few years, we've seen just an uptick in not just the volume, but really in the sophistication. We're seeing threat actors specifically targeting and doing research on school systems, um, uh, launching fairly sophisticated scams, jumping on in the middle of email threads to try to trick people. It's getting more and more challenging every day. And that's why I'm really excited as well to have Kyle with us. So Kyle can offer his perspective in his district. So if you don't know his district, it is one of the largest districts in the country, serving over, if I got it right, over 50,000 students. Not many school systems across the country are larger than Aldine ISD. So really excited for today's conversation because the way I think about it is if a district of that size, um, if it's finding a solution that works, odds are that it's going to work for any school system across the country. So Mick, I'll turn it over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen and let you and Kyle take it away from there.
Awesome. Doug, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Just by way of introductions, my name is Mick Leach. I'm a field CISO here at Abnormal. I've been here about 5 years. Initially joined as the head of security operations, engineering, and architecture, and had been building and leading security operations, engineering, architecture capabilities at Fortune 500 companies for about the last, oh goodness, almost 20 years now. Time flies when you're having fun. And so that's kind of my background. Before I came to this company, I was a former customer of Abnormal, and by golly, it worked so well for me. I went ahead and joined the company to be a part of what they were doing. I think it's kind of interesting that I always get roped into the most interesting conversations because, especially with K-12. Nothing is more near and dear to my heart than K-12. My wife and I, we're probably, Kyle, we're probably one of your biggest personal customers. My wife and I have been blessed with 13 kiddos of our own. And so we are, K-12, we've spent tons and tons of time with K-12 and our local school districts and have understood that this is one of the more vulnerable populations, one of the rich areas that bad actors love to target because it is a group of vulnerable populations. It's such a tough area. And so Kyle, thrilled to have you with us today. Would you introduce yourself, kind of tell us a little bit about where you're at and what you've been up to?
Yeah, it's great to be here, everybody. Thanks, Mick. Grateful for the opportunity to talk to y'all. I lead cybersecurity efforts here at the district. I get to be a one-man army of sorts. With that little of staff representation and security, it makes things tough. As everybody knows, you don't usually have even one person full-time for cybersecurity. So I'm fortunate to actually do that and dedicate that for my district. 9,000 staff, over 53,000 students, contractors, buildings, network problems, you name it, I've seen it. I've been here for 18 years. Blessed to be here. And we are fortunate to have seen and stopped thousands of different types of attacks. And throughout this process of reviewing different ones, Abnormal is just head above water on every one in the industry. There's no question in my mind that it works. And yeah, looking forward to talking. Just a little bit more about me. I love my job. I love what I do. And looking forward to getting through it. And I'll be sure to include some cool tips for you guys too, so that you guys can take that back to your home districts and your other schools.
I love it. I love it. Well, as we get ready to have this, dive deeper into the conversation, it became really evident to me, right? I grew up in working in the insurance and financial services industry, primarily Fortune 500 banks and insurance companies. And so the world is very different there. It wasn't until I was talking shop, if you will, with the security guy at our local K-12 school here where I'm at in Ohio, and he said, "Mick, I don't think you understand. It's very different for us." And I was like, I mean, the threats are the same. And he said, "Mick, I don't I don't think you get it though, because I have, thousands of students that are, they haven't met a link they won't click on. And I can't give them any sort of security awareness training. And so I can't necessarily harden my user population the way you can at your insurance company or at your bank. So that means that my my group is so much more vulnerable than yours, and I can't really harden that target." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I had candidly, I'd never thought about that before, from that perspective." So Kyle, give us the picture of what you're protecting over there. Like, what is the size, the community? We heard some numbers already, but it just stands out to me when you said 50,000 plus students. I mean, that boggles my mind, because that would put it at one of the largest companies, even Fortune 500 companies that I've worked for, in terms of what you're supporting, and to be essentially a team of one defending such a broad attack surface. That is admirable and yet terrifying work, I can only assume. So what makes cybersecurity at a K-12 district different than the typical enterprise? Kind of unpack that for me a little bit further, and tell me just, what are you working with there at your school district?
Yeah, so I think the key is automation. When you only have a team of one, there's not a lot that you can really do to control all the factors. But when you have something that's actually watching it 24 hours a day, and you have confidence that it works, and you've proven that it works, that's the difference maker. So we automatically give email to everybody, every student that's above fifth grade, and then we grant them email access. We kind of onboard them, we show them the ropes, and we make sure that there's guardrails in place, a little bit of walled garden. And of course, they're all new to email, and we do our due diligence to train them up. But when they kind of take it off for a test drive, they can go crazy, and I've seen it. So my biggest focus whenever I'm picking out the right things and how to protect them and staff, because there can be some challenges there for sure, especially with the sophistication and what they get in their inbox that it could be scams. I prefer the automation aspect. I prefer to make sure that there's integration. There's something that can actually double check me and my settings, and not it's just taking that human a little bit further than what they could do to try to manually triage, or, creating deny lists or allow lists, because that doesn't work. And I think we've actually tried it in the past, and it definitely didn't work. So these scammers, they know what your environment is. We've had some where they get in the environment in the past, and they live there, and they actually masquerade as a employee, and they get the feel for who does what. They read your org charts. They literally hunt you down. They know your business contact. They know where you live. They know who you talk to and when. And they will definitely take it upon themselves if they see the right, incentive to go after those kind of people. And so that's when you get those blocks, like in Abnormal, and you actually see it, and you show that value, and you're like, man, we stopped that one. That was a heavy hitter right there. So.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that stands out to me as you were speaking, it reminded me of another conversation that I had. And this was with a higher education organization, but I think the same still remains true, is that, you have to publicize, you have to make public so much more of what you're doing. So if you have contract negotiations, that's public. If you have new building projects, that's all public. And who you're bidding out to, it's all public. Everything is public, which just gives the attacker so much more to work with, so much richer data and information than when they go in to start social engineering. It gives them a lot of rich data from which to mine and then start targeting the right folks at school districts and try and, plant themselves in and start doing some nefarious things. Is that kind of what you've heard about or what you've seen?
It's definitely true. I know that report is solid when they say that basically all 90% of sophisticated cyber attacks just are from email. And so
Mhm.
if you don't wake up to that, then you're gonna wake up one day. So now it's the time because getting your defenses lined up on email security is the key. It was definitely at the very, very first thing that I wanted to lock down as best as I could. We done it in levels, but stacking with abnormal is amazing because of its integration, its intelligence. I didn't have to do a lot of tuning to make it work. It just understood that, hey, this should not be in that inbox. We're just not going to present it to the user. We would constantly fight the battles of figuring out, our own email security in the past. We went through a couple different vendors. You're right. Like when you're putting this information out there, there's not a lot of compliance and laws. You can run your school district or your ISD with basically no email filtering at all. And no one's actually going to come for you or say you're out of compliance, right? There's no true authority in most states. Even though some of us are putting their hands up and saying, hey, come help us, please, because we need that guidance and that compliance help. So it takes someone to kind of take a step back, review it, and figure out where the holes are and fix them with like a tool like Abnormal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just even bring in, as you say that, I think, compliant organizations are compromised every single day.
Sure.
Compliance requirements don't necessarily make you more secure. They might make you compliant, but they don't necessarily make you more secure. So do me a favor. Let's jump in the Wayback Machine and let's go back to 2022. What were you seeing in inboxes that told you that you're neither your legacy tool nor Google's native security controls were holding up for you? Like what kinds of attacks were you seeing? What was slipping through your tech stack, and who were they targeting? And lastly, what were the biggest blind spots that you had back in 2022?
It got wild. I think every school, every place knows about the job scams. Everyone loves the job scams. I don't know why, but they just see that offer, that man, you want to be a secret shopper and get cash? Well, you're hired right now. No interview. Just take our money. And you put that up to a large audience of people, and they're gonna follow through on it. That happened to us very bad back in 2022. So we're a big Google school district. We're a big Google workspace, and it just they did not have the capability to protect it. Even with the extra security add-on, there's nothing they're gonna do to stop that. You could try to hit on regex words. You could try to deny people. You could try to do anything you can. They're still going to figure out a way to maybe take over an internal account and then pitch it as a teacher account back to the student saying, hey, I'm the teacher. You want this cool job? You get paid $500. This is all you got to do is click this link and give me your personal information. And we're going to get this deposit in your bank account. And that's real. That happens. I know many schools told the same story. And so we tried to fix it, and there was nothing else that could fix it except Abnormal. Finally, could actually identify it, classify it, and say, nah, this is not actually legitimate. This Google Sheet, this online Word document that you complete, and you just send it off to whomever you think you're sending it to. And so I was happy to see those squashed, and because it's a bad morning when you wake up and you're like, you got to deal with another one. Did they actually get into their bank account? Did they send them the money? It's check scams 101. Look it up. It's not hard to pull off with the right person targeted. So I feel good, knowing that we helped to stop those.
Yeah. So if I can put your mind at ease for a moment, what I'll tell you is that my last company, I was at a Fortune 500 bank, right? Very different world, very different tech stack. Upper right quadrant, everything. Multi-million dollar tech stack. In 3 years there, I had never been told no in terms of buying tech. So I bought the best you could possibly get. And yet, I continued to have things slipping through my tech stack as well. For me, that tipping point was like there was a sextortion campaign. Have you seen these where, bad actor
Yeah.
sends you a pretty threatening extortion note that says, I turned on your web camera where you were surfing pornography or whatever, because who doesn't do that on a random Tuesday afternoon, from the office? And yet this particular one, rather enterprising threat actor, took a screenshot of their extortion note and then pasted that in as the body of the message. Well, the resulting JPEG file itself wasn't malicious in any way, shape, or form. And my secure email gateway, multi-million dollar secure email gateway, couldn't read the words in the picture. So it sailed right through my multi-million dollar tech stack and started causing quite a stir with my users when it started landing in inboxes. I started getting these weird phone calls. Mick, do you know how to open a Bitcoin wallet? I was like, wait, what? Why do you? I don't want to know why you think that you should pay. Listen, don't pay. Like for me, so you're not alone, is I guess my point. Even big companies who spent millions and millions of dollars, I had a huge team protecting my organization. And yet we also had threats that were slipping through.
Mhm.
And it was really shocking for me to see, just how much, no matter how much great tech I threw at the problem, we still had things slipping through just like you did, right? So you're not alone. Listen, for folks on the call, hear me. You're not alone, okay? Your organization is not the worst one. All of us are targeted, and it doesn't matter how great your tech stack is. There are still things that can slip through. So, it's just crazy to think about that. So, um, you know, I want to jump forward now. So if that's how things were, you took a look at something. Would love to kind of unpack that. You had mentioned about the rules and writing these, these regex searches and stuff like that. I had a team full of people whose only job it was to build these kinds of rules, and yet things continued to slip through. Right, our legacy tools, they lean on these rigid rules and known patterns, and yet behavioral AI works differently. It learns from normal, learns what normal looks like, and it can flag what doesn't look normal. So can you help the audience, help us understand, what that shift actually meant for your organization? Like, what can a behavioral approach catch that a rule-based approach cannot?
Yeah, so the big one with job scams is everyone felt like, okay, we're just going to stop the students from getting any email with a subject that contains offer. And you're like, all right. And then you're like, okay, wait, we're going to do it job plus offer. We'll stop all those. Like, okay. And like, okay, now they're getting opportunity and then they're getting remote work. And you're like, all right, this is probably not going to work, and they're like, all right, well, we're running out of ideas because these guys are always, they know the delivery, they know the bounce back. These scammers are very sophisticated. I see them as like literal businesses. Whole floors full of people just like, okay, how do we, okay, send this back to them. It didn't work. And so, it's sad because you're like, what are we gonna do now? So when we went with abnormal, it was clear that when that email comes in, it thinks, right? It's running in the background before it makes its way right to the inbox. It's like, whoa, first of all, this person never emailed you. That's weird. This person has never offered you this syntax. You've never emailed them back. And it just starts to compile like analytics on top of each other. And it's like, this is looking strange, and it's starting to produce like a score. And then after a while, it's like, you know what? This ain't right. And then it tests the links, it tests the senders, it looks at the domains, it looks at the it does all this quick analysis that you can't do in real time. And then it prevents it. And you get to go in your dashboard and you get to scroll in there every morning and you're like, man, look at all those thousands of blocks that, would have made it into the inboxes with what I currently have as my main workspace that Abnormal had to take care of. And so that one, that's the ease of complex deployment. It was not hard. It was very easy to integrate, and wasn't like I had to tune it. I didn't require to go to boot camp. I didn't have to pay an MSSP to help me like perfect all of the types of emails to make sure it's all throttled just right. I remember having to do that with the legacy tools, right? You used to literally have to make sure like, okay, if it's this person to this domain, make sure and triage and massage it just right. So I was happy, to see how easy it was to set up.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know about you. When the salesperson came to talk to me, they said, we can install this in 30 seconds and something like 4 clicks. And did you hear, it was that kind of in terms of the
Yeah.
POV, like doing
And
a
you're
proof of
just like,
concept?
probably not. You're just used to a sales pitch, right?
Yeah. I thought that was the most ridiculous claim I had ever heard from a salesperson. And I've heard all of them. I mean, if you're in this long enough and you do what we do and you buy tools and you spend a lot of money, their salespeople come out of the woodwork to pitch you. And I remember the first time that I met with Abnormal and they said we could install in 30 seconds. I was like, that's adorable that you think that. This is a Fortune 500 bank. I can't do anything in 30 days, let alone 30 seconds. You're out of your mind. And he was like, I'm telling you, we can. And so when I did my POV, I actually did it sort of on a bet because I was like, all right, I think I've caught one of these guys red-handed. So I was like, I tell you what, 30 seconds, huh? If you can install in 30 seconds, I will buy lunch for the whole office here today. But if it can't, you're buying lunch today. And he was like, deal. I felt a little bit more concerned at how quickly he agreed. And he was like, I'm telling you what, just call your M365 admin into the room. I was a Microsoft shop at my last company. And so I called him in, and sure enough, because it goes in read-only mode, right? It's not going to make any changes. It's not going to affect anything. It's just reviewing things. And sure enough, it was like 25 seconds, three or 4 clicks. I was like, uh-oh. So I was buying lunch that day. My wife was not thrilled. But I remember thinking, all right, fine. I was wrong. You were right. It installed fast. So what? Show me the evil. And they said, well, let's give it some time to bake, Mick, and we'll call you in about a week with all of the things that are slipping through your current tech stack, they give you a report. And about a week went by and I forgot all about it, because it's running quietly in the background. And I got that call. Mick, we've got your report ready for you. Did you get one of these where they go, hey, I've got everything ready for you, show you what's slipping through your current tech stack? Did you get one of those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's called the customer cares bundle. And when you get that, I remember we got it. You kind of like, is this true? Like, hang on a second. And then they kind of sit down with you and they're like, let's just go through it. All right, here's one. This is that person. It's almost like your incident response, like game plan.
Yes.
You're actually like walking the whole email chain of like what could have went down and that this email actually got in your inbox, and you're kind of just scared. You're kind of like sweating a little bit, and you're like, wait, what in the world? Like that person, did they respond to that email? And then you kind of have to go check because these are the ones that are getting through, and Abnormal is like showing them to you, and that they're confident of how it could have played out, if you don't have this protection. So it's really cool package they put together for you.
Yeah, in my case, it was not only really cool because they weren't showing me necessarily what could have happened. They called to tell me what was happening.
It's true.
They said, Mick, we've got this report. It's full of heinous things that are slipping through your current tech stack. And I remember being like personally offended.
Yeah.
Like I spent all this money and all this time building a tech stack, the tech stack of my dreams. And And then he was going to show me all this stuff that was slipping through, but he was like, listen, we'll get to all of that. But you have an HR business partner right now live that is corresponding with a threat actor. We think you should get involved. And I was like, wait, what? No, that can't, what? And sure enough, they showed us, the email, and there it was in black and white. And it was just what you would expect, right? Threat actor had done their homework. They went out and found one of our, high paid associates on LinkedIn, cross-referenced them with Instagram, saw they were posting pictures from Cabo, having a lovely time on vacation with their family, then promptly went out to Gmail and crafted their first last name at gmail.com, which apparently they hadn't done and now never can, which I still find funny. And promptly sent an email to HR and said, hey, sending this from my personal account because I'm on vacation. I don't have access to my corporate account, which is a best security practice. And then said, hey, I was so geared up for vacation, I completely forgot that I changed banks at the beginning of the month. So, if you could just change my payroll to my new bank account, I would be ever so grateful. And I was like, oh no, please tell me she didn't reply. And I scrolled down and she said, and she did reply and she said, no, I'm not going to do that. You didn't fill out the right form. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. Saved by the process. And then I scrolled down further though, and I saw those fateful words, it's attached for your convenience. And I went, no, no, no. And of course, wouldn't you know it, the threat actor filled that form out better than any employee in the history of our company. And she was desperately trying to make the change when we caught it. So we caught one live in the moment.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't just even like theoretical talking about what incident response, what we would have done. We were responding live in the moment to go, okay, look, how far did this get? Did she make the change? How do we reel this back in? That's the kind of stuff that it caught for me that nothing else was, which was really impactful. It's crazy.
Yeah, I just opened up mine right now, and this was a while back when they ran it for me. And we went through the worst ones, and you're right. Like many of them didn't play out. Many of them, the person didn't fall for it. They didn't respond. We do our due diligence. I do security awareness training as frequently as I can, and yet sometimes they don't always, as much as you can, right? And yeah, when we met and we looked over that bundle of threats and emails that it saw that my filters weren't actively stopping. By the way, that was with another email filter and Google with all of its security controls. So double filtering, still getting through. And that's what's awesome about Abnormal is you can apply that thing right there, right away, and still see what's not working. And we met and we hunted down a few like you did. And we traced down and we're like, you didn't call that person, right? And they're like, yeah, I did. I'm like, no. Well, and what'd you tell them, right? And they're like, oh, they're just working on a donation from your school district and we're partnering with them and they need me to send over I'm like, please, no. Just delete it, right? And it's when you go communicate to your leadership and they're like, these things are still getting through. They shouldn't be getting through. And it's just like, well, how are we actually gonna stop them? And you're like, hey, this solution saw these that still made it through. These are the confidence scores that they know that they'll stop it. And you're like, all right, put them to the challenge. Make them own up to it, like you did. Call the bluff, I guess. But yeah, you bought lunch. But luckily, I didn't have to buy lunch. I just have to buy myself lunch.
Right.
But yeah, I want to point out, like whenever I was starting this journey, I just want to give the audience one quick hot tech tip that they can do right now. If you go online and you just throw in your domain on any DMARC analyzer website, this is where you should look, just in case you're not at a good threshold. Just take your domain, just throw it into any online SPF DMARC analyzer tool. And if you don't have about a 90% score, they can trick some stuff for sure. If you got like a 50%, you should probably be like, well, what are we doing here? It's kind of hard to get 100% usually on those tools because they'll look for BME with special certificates on your blue check. But yeah, I started there, making sure you got good SPF, you got good DKIM, get that locked down, know who's authorized to send on your behalf, and then lock down your DMARC records. And I'm proud to say that we did it. So anyone that says, it's tough to do it as a district, well, you're right. It is. It is very tough to do it as a district because you got to know who's actually sending out emails that you're partnered with. But yeah, we did it, and that helps a lot. So I would encourage the audience to give that a shot, whenever they can.
You heard it from Kyle here first, folks. P equals reject. Set it up. So I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So definitely good, good sanitization processes to do here. So walk us through what your team did at that point, right? Both the before and the after. What does your team get back, once detection and triage are automated? How is the on-call, the after-hours burden? Has it changed for you guys? And what are the numbers telling you these days?
Yeah, at first it was, we would expect a job scam, something on someone's calendar, or some other kind of crazy email where someone gave away personal information or their bank account linked to a routing number. That's happened. And, you're like, man, every month, really, this is how we got to live, and then we got to call this person, figure it out, see what actually they did or did not do. And we don't do that at all. To be honest, maybe once or twice just to double check that it was legitimate. Usually just a spot check here and there, but that frequency, that hesitation, right? It's removed. So I'm proud to say that that's a blessing. The other one is where they used to. You're gonna laugh. Actually, this is funny. I'm sure there's districts and schools out there right now where there's a person where the district is sending emails to. They think that this is the person that can vet it for them, right? The superintendent, someone gets this email, right? They're like, I don't know. Bob. Bob knows how to. He'll tell me. Send it to Bob. They'll throw that to Bob. Well, Bob will be like, I'm just gonna try it out myself, and maybe he'll click the link, and maybe he'll I don't know what happens with Bob's computer. It's tragic. We don't do that. We stopped doing that years ago. And what you can do instead with Abnormal is you can build up a AI security mailbox, and you can set it to where, we got the word out, communicated, hey, send it to phishing, and this thing can automatically double check itself, review the whole email, the analytics, tell the user 5 seconds, hey, this is actually safe because of this. Thanks for double checking. And your security team can get BCC'd on it and say, whoa, that user just double checked this email. Good for them, brownie points all around. But then at the same time, that you're not going to get that phone call. You take Bob out of the equation. Bob ain't getting that email anymore, just about to launch ransomware just because someone said, hey, spot check this for me. And that's a really cool benefit right there that we gained. So we got our time back. We got some efficiency and also some productivity. Another one is in the past, we would do more like a quarantine, and we would put the emails in this old quarantine right here, and then people would say they'd be notified. You got this email on your quarantine, and they're like, well, I think I know that guy. I think maybe that's a legit, $100 gift card to Amazon. And they're like, request it. And they're like, I want to look at that. We don't do that anymore. Thank goodness, because Abnormal, has good efficiency ratings to where they don't even need to know about that, and we get to look at it. So we take those all as wins.
Yeah. Can I tell you how much I hate those quarantines, like those quarantine notes, because all it does is create FOMO, right? This fear that someone's missing out on something. Or worse, I've had these tools that used to take the malicious messages or suspected malicious messages, and then it would move them to the deleted items folder or the trash folder. And then I've got some users, I don't know, maybe it's just banks, I don't know, but
that happens here.
School districts, you guys don't have this problem. But I had dumpster divers. I had these users that would always go look in their trash periodically. I don't know why, but they're in there like, what did I miss? What's in here? Stay out of there. What are you doing? Now you got people that are clicking links that we actually caught, we actually removed, but then now they're still getting, bitten by these things. It was crazy. It was super frustrating. The account team told me, and keep me honest here, that Abnormal stopping 22,000 plus attacks per month for you guys. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that was, I think, just an average, just on a random month. We've had it for a good while, so it's all baked in. And I always want to point out that that is with many levels of security in depth. And all of that is still coming at us and getting through all that other pre-security levels up the stack. So I like to go in there and you kind of look at those numbers too, and you're like, wait, what? You analyzed, 5 million emails this week, and you stopped, 22,000 the past month. You're like, how many did you stop in the last 90 days? What? And you're like, when in the world was in all those emails? And you kind of go look at it. I just take a quick browse. I just like to peek. I'm kind of taking a peek right now, and it's everything from, you know, apply right now, send us money, take this loan, everything under the sun. And you're just like, man, I'm keeping these people from having to deal with it. And so it's a nice feeling when you see those numbers and you get those quick analytics inside your own dashboards. You get to kind of run your own little quarterly review and actually check those numbers out live. And so there's a lot of return on investment that you can just quickly download and just throw out there to everybody and just say, hey, check these numbers out. They're pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy when we think about that. And I'm glad you brought that up because it's important to understand too that, abnormal and other solutions like it, these API driven email security solutions, they get the last bite of the apple, right? Gmail has already had its chance to block. If you're a Microsoft shop, fine. It's already had its chance to block. What you're getting here is everything else has already had its chance to block. And that's when abnormal springs in and catches things that are going to be written to the inbox. So that 22,000 plus attacks that are being stopped, they've already bypassed the rest of that defense in depth tech stack model, right?
Right. And here's another hot tip for y'all. A lot of people out there say, how are you protecting the students, right? Like you got students, and then you could put them in your own domain, your own settings. You could put staff. Let's say you don't keep it separate for whatever reason. I would encourage it. Well, they used to say like, well, let's just let the students email however they need to. They're going to learn one way or another, or maybe we have student accounts. We implement a design to where, and it does work. So I'm living proof. A student can't email whatever domain they want. They can only email domains that we specify, whether it's a edu, a school, or a certain type of program that they're actually using for their schoolwork. And you can basically create that allow list. And you can say these students in this domain can actually email back and forth to these. And then everything else, no, you just don't get to talk to my students. There's no reason for you. I don't know who you are. And we implemented that. And then post doing that, it helped. But yet those numbers that you're talking about are after doing that. So that means even after, trying to safeguard the kids and say, no, you can't just email whomever and no one can email you, those numbers are still showing up. And I like to go in there and just kind of view it myself, like you said, and just know what's happening, because you do have to understand what these people are up to, what their incentive is. It matters. I could bring up another story where these scammers, they spent time. They really knew how to do bank fraud. They crafted websites, legitimate, built up the even reputation of the website to make sure that it will work, and presented it as, let's say, an employee portal. And then inside of there, they could say, hey, let's craft this special email, send it to that user, and walk them through the whole chain of the attack. Like this is well planned. And so when you hear those numbers about schools being targeted, that's real. They're sophisticated threat actors that are intentional on their efforts. And they would talk to the user, they would message them, they would say, yeah, you got to get your direct deposit fixed. And then they would reset the password and change the direct deposit, transfer them over to a complete lookalike page, identical, get them to change their bank account, send it off to a fake bank, take the money out. And they do that, and they will pull that off if they want to. So it is about money and data. That's how I see it. With the data, they can get money. I send out communications to my staff and students to freeze your credit if you can, especially with minors. They don't need to be taking out, car loans or house loans. And these people are after their information. And as school districts, we hold all employee personnel data and also school district student data. And it's our job to make sure that they don't get access to it. So that's part of our efforts that we do to send out that communication and say, we're gonna protect you, but let's help you make sure that you don't send out that data as well. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. So I have heard from your account team that you guys are now rolling out email productivity district wide. So what does the next phase look like for that, and how are you approaching it? Maybe explain what that looks like for you, how that works, and how are you managing that change across like 14 years of Gmail habits, and what keeps you confident that that program is improving?
Email productivity is it's a crazy one, because if you have the problem, you got the problem. It's not one of those things where you're like, wait, I don't know if I have. If your inbox is just full and you're like just exhausted, you got a problem. And if your staff is just suffering, and maybe students, with just fatigue from just way too much in their inbox, Abnormal puts up this ability to say, this isn't something you want, and it's definitely not something you need. So we're just going to put it over here in this folder, and we're just going to help you clean up your inbox. And with that feature, there's some people, some staff, there's people here that they love it. And they know as soon as we turn that thing on, we're like, wow. And you get to see those numbers pre-game. So you get to know, like, I'm about to help protect all of these people from getting this flood of junk, kind of. It's not necessarily spam, but they don't need it. They didn't want it. They didn't sign up for it half the time. And you get to just stash it away, and you can tell people about it. You can send them a little report, a little reminder. And we've had some famous users where we get to look at our numbers in our dashboard, and they would have 50,000, literally, I think it's a little over 50,000 emails in the past 90 days that are classified as this gray mail, as this unwanted mail. And you're like, what did this person do, right? So as much as you tell them, don't use your work email for personal reasons, maybe it's their fault, maybe it's not, right? But like, who cares at this point? It's still a problem. That poor person, I'm sure, is like, I don't even know who's emailing me. And you put that thing on, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I don't get all these like unwanted emails anymore. My inbox is just nice and organized. And they're like, thanks, Kyle. And I'm like, hey, not that hard, and it does work, and it is super efficient. So it's a cool, fun feature.
That's awesome. My mom was a teacher, and so she used to constantly go to conferences, right? That's a big thing for teachers, going to conferences. And so these days, when you go to conferences like Hacker Boot Camp, Hacker Summer Camp is next week, Black Hat in Vegas. And when you go, all of the vendors at every conference I've ever been to, they want to scan your badge. And you just know, I'm going to get 100 emails next week. This is going to suck. My inbox is going to be inundated with messages that, I mean, yes, I kind of agreed to get this, but I don't really want it. This is where that kind of product is fantastic at cutting through all of that, and just keeping the work emails in your inbox and everything else moved out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just reading through the chats. I don't know if anyone had any quick questions, but I just want to bring up another point. Google, and I think Microsoft, but definitely Google, even when you have the extra security added on, they don't always activate it. So even when you're like, yeah, I pay for that, or I have that, double check, because you'd be stunned inside of your workspace if you really do have, let's say, advanced malware protection, that setting turned on for your email on all of your actual OUs. And you would also be surprised what people may have put in your allow list. So there's another hot take for you. Definitely check that thing out. Make sure that what you have universally allowed or allowed domains is legit, and that no one went in there and just authorized the thing that's like the needle that's like driving you crazy, and you're like, how are these hackers, these scammers emailing me? How is this getting through? I've been fighting this for so long. Go check your allow list. Go check your universally authorized email senders, those domains, those email addresses. Make sure it is what you want to be there, and definitely call out your your email provider and make sure, hey, I want my security settings that I'm paying for or that I think are turned on, and they might be like, yeah, we gave you that, the toggle is there, but yeah, you're like, wait, it didn't automatically turn on, and they're like, they just kind of scratch their head, and you're like, man, and it's a nice feeling whenever you get to get some of those tuned up. So.
I love that. Well, I mean, you're clearly become a real voice for email security among the districts, among the K-12 world. So I want to continue to tap into that before we go to the questions. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. We will get to those here in just a moment. The last question for me, I promise. Kyle, what advice would you give to fellow K-12 security leaders that are in the room today? What should they take away? What should they do? What last bit of advice would you give them?
I would say definitely know what you have with email security and where you stand. Like I said, running your own reports, getting someone third party to kind of assess it, you assess it yourself. Take a step back and think about what you've proactively done to protect students, staff, both hybrid, mixed environment, who cares? What are you doing? And if you can't list some things, you're probably not doing enough. I remember, you would like take that challenge to heart. I would, and I think we do some, and we have this, we have that. Lay it out, plan it, list it, know what you have, make it to where it's not so manual. Putting that burden on someone or people or teams, it's no fun. I don't like the phone calls. No one likes the phone calls. Having Bob double check every scary email, that's awful. I remember one time someone got one and they literally got it through their team. This is a very large team, let's say 300 people. They got that email and they're like, this doesn't look right. I'm going to ask my whole 300 team, forward that thing to all 300. Hey, what do y'all think about this email? Just try it out. Let me know what you think. That's real. That happens. And I like to know what I have. And, you can take abnormal for a test drive. That's what I did. I think that's what you did. You could actually verify no cost, no games, no strings, maybe 30 seconds. If maybe you pay for lunch, maybe they pay for lunch. And you get to really know these are still getting through. This is active. Start picking up the calls, whatever, and verify that your email controls are actually working. That's the challenge I put out there. K12 SIX has awesome resources. They literally guide people through. They'll tell you how to do two-step verification. CISO will put up the actual guidance as well. They'll list out how you should implement the controls specifically on the web page, click by click. You can follow those to a T. That's great, but you got to know if you're doing it. So kind of do your own self audit and plan it out. That's what I would recommend.
Love it. All right, two quick questions from the chat here. One's from the chat and one's from the Q&A here. So one question from the chat I saw was, Kyle, can you share any feedback that you've received from your users? Did they notice anything? Are they complaining about either overblocking or false positives? What are your users saying about their email security since you've gone to abnormal?
I know for a fact we run communications through newsletters. We also run it through live feedback and also channels where we talk to them. As soon as we did it, I remember going in my own console and knowing all these are not getting through. And then you kind of go back to the user. You're like, hey, you're not getting those anymore. I'm like, no, thank you, because I didn't know. I really thought that if I just run this route, from my mom, she signed up for the job scam that I was going to get, $1,000 check, and I'm sorry, and it's like they don't, it's not your fault, right? And those don't go through anymore. The person getting threatened with you owe $390 on PayPal right now on Bitcoin, or you're going to jail. They don't get those scams anymore. So I know for a fact that our staff and students have told us it's a lot cleaner inbox. They don't worry so much about clicking, as much on things because they know that it's made it through its way through some safe filtering, and that's a nice feeling, when your users are telling you, and you also knowing you're talking to students, getting feedback from teachers and whatnot, that you've got a good product and that it's actually paying off. Yeah.
Yeah. Last question for me that I have in the chat for us, and it says, "Hey, Kyle, have you seen the level of sophistication associated with email attacks increase over the last couple of years? In other words, can we expect the problem to get better or worse?"
I don't think there's any way it's going to get better. Literally, history is telling us it's definitely getting worse. I I was kind of stunned that someone, a threat group, took that much time. I would guess they game planned for months. They had to have. They really built out a domain website spoofing. Once they're in your environment and scoping you out, if they want to get to you, they're gonna get to you. And whether it's through email or not, they're gonna make an effort, and you've really got to be prepared. So yeah, take email seriously. Get that one as good and secured as you can. Make sure that your business, your school district is still functioning. That everything that they want to do and talk to, talk to them. Don't overblock, right? Because that would make them very mad. But make sure that they are able to do what they need to, and you take care of that. And you define least privilege access as security rules go. Lock that in, and but yeah, to answer the question, definitely getting worse, definitely getting really sophisticated. Heck, look at the incident response map. Look at just Google. You can Google it if you want. You and I both have to read the bad news all the time. Google school district hacked, on the news, and you're like, it won't stop, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, there's another question that just popped up. In fact, there's a couple here. One here says, "Can you share 5 to 10 tips for defending against email attacks?" I think you've shared a fair few through the conversation, and then also asked about how AI is making attacks more sophisticated. I think you touched on that a little bit. I know we've got about 1 minute, and I got to give it back over to Doug, or I'm going to be disinvited on the hosting these from now on. So if you want to just touch on that real quick.
yeah, I won't. I'll make sure that you don't get kicked out of here. I would tell everybody, CISA, they really do a good job of laying it out. They literally walk through every toggle that you should do that they highly recommend. Additional through the online cloud email partner that you have, whether it's Microsoft or Google, and you can find those online. I'll try to get the link exactly, but it's CISA guidance, and they'll literally tell you, turn on this setting, double check that you have it, you should do this. And you can just kind of walk yourself and you can kind of look at it on your own workspace. So that's a really good spot to start.
Perfect. All right. And with that, I'm going to invite Doug back to the stage and have him close us out here.
All righty. Really appreciate this conversation. I thought it was really enlightening. I'm kind of trying to multitask here, so I think Kyle, I think I just dropped the link to the CISA resource you were talking about, the Scuba project, and they'll help check both your Microsoft and Google systems to make sure you're configured securely. Those tools they might require a little bit of work to get running, depending, but they are continually being updated, and they're a good way to check your configs against some secure baselines. So yeah, Mick, Kyle, thanks so much for sort of pulling back the curtain and sharing a little bit about your experience. I think everyone is experiencing the same things that you are. And so it's actually really exciting to hear that this is not that big a problem for you, it sounds like anymore, which I'm sure you've got a district of that size. You've got plenty of other fires to be putting out outside of email. So, congrats to you. Thanks for sharing, and for the advice that you gave to everybody. And Mick, thanks as well for sharing your experience and bringing that information about abnormal AI. If you are interested in learning more, there's the slide up that on the screen there. You can reach out to Robin and she can help you out, or I guess there's a link there that you can follow as well. So again, big thanks, Kyle and Mick.